Welcome to episode 0 of the Comrades Classroom Podcast. On this episode, 2 of our comrades are interviewed by graduate students at Cal State Dominguez Hills, where they are currently studying coalition building and sustainability. On it, we cover a wide range of topics, from how we built our foundation of the North Orange County Mutual Aid Coalition to our core politics that determine how we move in the field. We cut the interviewer's first question because it talks specifically about the formation of the People's Coalition, but the strength of our work comes from our mutual aid network. None of this would be possible without the collective unity and network building we've done with homies like 714 Mutual Aid, OC Protests, Anaheim Autonomous Coalition, Mobilize the People, Underground Grit, Youth Justice LA, Sacramento Neighbor, and other folks from the Inland Empire and around Southern California. Hope y'all enjoy the episode. Black Power, Brown Pride, Land Back.
Tú eres mi otro yo. Tú bien sabes que no me voy, que sin ti no soy yo. Y sin saber me coloqué, sin querer me caíste bien, y tus besos saben a miel. Ay, saben a miel.
Yeah, and that's kind of where, so like in our logo, you can see there's the Palestinian flag, there is the anti-ICE flag, or abolish ICE flag, there is the LGBTQ flag and the trans flag, and like all the folks who were involved on the leadership team like identify in one of those roles, and we kind of as a collective believe that those joint struggles, along with the or I should say, along with like the anti-police and like Black liberation movement, like all tied together. And so like that's kind of where we started, and that's kind of where we tried to like continue.
And how many are you now? Like, would you say? Because like, how many did you start with, like the beginning of it to now? Like how much has it grown?
So since March, I would say we started with literally with like 2 to 8 people within like a couple of days. Like it started to build. And then now we're at, I would say like between 45 and 50.
Nice.
Oh, that's great. And how do you actually like reach out to the people? Like, do you do it all over social media? Is it something that it's all word of mouth? Like how are you reaching people to kind of come join your cause?
So it's very, luckily, like it's been very organic. Like we do have social media, and like through UCI, there was like the email list of like all the students and like faculty and custodian workers. But for the most part, like we're just really in the community, and like we just like happen upon people. But like also people in our collective are part of these communities and have been for like multiple years. So it's really easy when like there are already people within the community and like they trust them and like they're part of them. And so like it's very easy for us to then assist and become part of the community as well.
Mm-hmm. So when you say you're like in the community already, like tell us what you do within the community.
Yeah, so like one of the things we focused on from the jump, or do you want to?
No, yeah, you go ahead.
One of the things we focused on from the jump was like being intentional with like meeting the community and working alongside the community. And so like for myself, like I was a middle school teacher in Santa Ana for the last 4 years. One of the other homies in the collective is like grew up and is from Anaheim and is involved with like multiple public schools, multiple arts collectives, has been around the community, been around the youth. There's like multiple homies in Anaheim that are like deeply connected, just grew up there, and have always been connected with certain senoras, certain neighborhoods. That's the same in Santa Ana. And so like, because we have continued to just show face, and be out there, like talking with senoras and talking with like community leaders and trying to form like community councils and get an idea of what the needs of the community are, both like in the neighborhoods and within the like the unhoused encampments. It like builds that trust, because like we're directly trying to build relationships and then trying to meet needs. And so that's kind of how we've been able to organically grow both our members as well, because then the people that we kind of work with in the community become a part of the coalition. And that's same with like the unhoused folks that we work with. They like we have, or we're starting to build like a council of folks in the unhoused community who can like work together to make sure we understand what their needs are and we can meet them. So we've been super intentional about that.
That's awesome, because that makes sense. How you say, like how you and Sam said, organically grown. Like you guys are of the community already in positions of, you know, some form of like influence, like you as a teacher, and you know the other guy you mentioned. So that's pretty cool. So you guys are in the area and stuff. So that does sound organic. So a question would be kind of like how, when you have so many different people involved, from like 8 to how you said now, like around 50, how do you guys, like what's the process on like agreeing to like your guys's like goals that you guys are aiming at?
So like we're very explicit in our language in like what we stand for and what we want to do. It's all autonomous. It's anti-capitalism, linear, horizontal structure. And it's like, it's very easy to suss out the people that like don't want to do that, or like want to do things for like opportunism or like volunteering.
They often suss themselves out.
Yeah.
Like they remove themselves from the space because like nobody allows them to take on leadership roles, and they're not allowed to like boost their own ego. And so they eventually just stop like coming around, because it's folks who are just doing the work and not doing it for like attention or clout or anything like that.
Like we're super intentional not to take pictures of faces, not take pictures of areas, only like hands maybe, and like items that we actually give, not like videos of us handing out shit. Like that's dumb.
And I'm just wondering, like Sam and DJ, like, you know, so far, like in your guys' experiences, like what have been, because a lot of the times with coalition, sometimes there's kind of like threats, or not necessarily threats, but, you know, like hardships that you guys go through because you guys are actually out there, you know, doing the hard work and out there, like, you know, in terms of like being in the field. Like, can you guys express any maybe like, whether it was like
dangers, right?
Dangers like overall that you guys have experienced, or?
Yeah. So like speaking on what Sam's talking about with like having like a horizontal structure, that kind of the way that that's like actually is implemented is by like everything is decided and nothing is done without it being brought to the collective first, and the collective agreeing upon that. So like however small the group chat was at the jump, like, and however big it is now, it's always been a collective decision or collective understanding, or like amongst the leadership team, it's been a collective decision or collective understanding about what we're doing, who we are, whatever we post on social media, whoever we work with, and make partnerships with, like either within the city or in other states and other cities within California. And so like everything we do is collective based, and no one person is making these decisions. And so like with that, it allows us to kind of also make sure things are more secure. And that's kind of the thing about being is about it growing organically. If you're like just very open and allow any person to volunteer and join, it kind of sets you up for infiltration in different ways. Because we've already been targeted by like Santa Ana, Anaheim PD. We've already been targeted by Santa Ana, Anaheim City, like officials. And like, it's only going to increase the surveillance and like the harassment. And so making sure the people within our circles are like airtight on what information is being discussed and what information is being shared is like super, super important, because although we're not like at a high risk right now, we're at our highest risk, like to allow certain folks in who might be a danger to us later on. And like we always use the phrase that like misogynists can be the best informants, because like it's always often in like hyper masculine men, like like me taking up too much space right now. But
self-awareness, yeah.
No, but who tear down movements. Like that's what happened with the Black Panther Party. That's what's happened in a lot of different movements throughout history. And yeah, it's like a lot of times it's the men that can do it. So we try to like follow the lead of like Black, Indigenous, queer, and like trans femme, to like make the decisions and lead the way. Like, and yeah, that's like one of like the key things that kind of keeps us, or we hope to keep us from like that type of danger.
So you're saying like within the leadership, there's no hierarchy. You guys are all pretty much equal when you say horizontal, right? And then so you're saying that the police like target you and everything. Why are they targeting you? What is it that you guys are doing that they want to target you?
So providing like sources of care such as like literal just food to our unhoused community is illegal in most parts of this state. There's over like 120 laws. Yes. Over 120 laws about feeding people. And like that causes harm to the state. So like it's more them trying to keep like some type of hold on like the community, and we pose a risk by offering solutions that are not police based.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Like, and I think it's super important too to like name like capitalism, like within that, and name like colonialism within that, because like its role, and for it to be successful, it has to like destroy and exploit under overexploited communities, right? Like Black communities, like Indigenous communities, like Latinx communities, like like literally Palestine as a nation state. Our entire country like pays billions of dollars to exploit, and so like that's what happens even like in our community. So like our sheriff's department, our police departments, our city officials, they profit when unhoused folks are like being cycled in and out of shelters or being cycled in and out of local jails. Like that's a money driver for them. And so us addressing that harm and trying to make sure that these folks have everything they need, have safe encampments, have access to clean needles and harm reduction supplies, so they're not overdosing at very high rates. Like that's like we've personally been involved in 14 drug reversals in the last 3 months. And so like when you're doing that and like stopping them from causing harm, like they get annoyed by that because it's exploiting and showing that they're not doing their jobs, and they don't want that to ever happen.
Yeah, that's amazing what you said right there. The bit about the 14 reversals, and so it sounds like you guys currently are working pretty hand in hand with the homeless population then, right?
Yes, but also side note, we used unhoused or houseless because people first language. People can have homes with each other and within like their community, but having a physical house is not available due to capitalism in our society. Language.
But that's like most nonprofits still use terms homeless and stuff.
Yeah. So does the city, but like people first is like very important to us, and like remembering that these human beings are human beings is like
we try to say like our unhoused neighbors, our unhoused friends, our
family,
homies.
No, I noticed that on your website because I saw that, and I was like, oh, I'm like that's actually a pretty good way of saying it. But you know what? It's like we're so used to saying homeless that it's something that we've got to like remember, and then eventually it'll just become natural. To say
I mean that's what it was like for a lot of people in our collective too. Like they had to learn by the language that we used, which is like a lot easier when you do it daily. But I understand some people like don't even have access to that information.
Yeah, and it's not even. I think it's important to like. It's not even like propping ourselves up as like the language we use. I think it's like for. Like it's a learning process, and like we're always I think unlearning and growing, because like we all went through the school system, like like you know, and we all know how trash it was, and like we were taught these things intentionally, and so I think it's like important to show each other grace, like because like we are like growing and learning, and like Sam and I will like make mistakes with each other and have to like correct each other, like you know, like and that just happens. And
it's like the same idea of like pronouns, like you just have to like get used to using they or not she or not he. It's just like part
Can we
of
talk
growing.
about?
And
Can we talk about because that's a huge point, is that learning process. And then, you know, a lot of us, it's like, you know, becoming aware of our privilege and having to unlearn certain like bias views and stuff. Can you guys talk to like the learning process within the coalition, like how you guys said you learn from each other and you learn from, like, you know, others within?
Yeah, so we actually also do political ed, and we have like a collective. Part of our collective is doing that. So like we have a large group chat that's a certain part of our collective that does that, and basically we like read and like discuss these things constantly, and like the more you allow yourself to like unlearn the things that like colonialism have taught us, and like get into the readings that like aren't given by universities or like textbooks or X, Y, and Z, it's a lot easier to understand like people first language in like multiple aspects of like life, rather than using like an addict saying somebody who has like an addiction, you know, things like that.
Yeah, and one thing I think too is like super important is like we like as like being in like living in America and being or not, maybe not being Americans, but like living within like the heart of imperialism globally, and like terror, honestly, globally, in terms of like capitalism and exploitation. Like we are like have like we can't speak on being revolutionary really. And so like I think it's important to talk about like the other, like when talking about like political education and learning, like the indigenous movements in Chiapas and the Zapatistas in Mexico, and like the farm and land workers movement in Brazil, where they are like have thousands of youth being like politically educated on how to like decolonize not only their minds but actually like their communities, and like live outside of like capitalism and exploitation. And so like they have been and are doing it so much better than we are. Like that's who we really like look up to and try to learn from.
That's what our political ed is based on. Nothing from like here, basically.
Yeah. So there's influence. So there's influence then from like other countries essentially, and other forms of it, right? Like there's influence, global influence.
Yeah, the global influence is so important because like America doesn't know what like revolution looks like. Like we can't even fathom that within like our frame of thinking because of colonialism and how colonized our brains are.
I mean, the American Revolution was to
vote,
to like uphold slavery, right? Like, and so like that's what like the people who created this country revolted against, was like taking away slavery. You know, like yeah.
So the global impact has to be there, or else it like you don't really know what you're talking about. You're just talking about like socialism.
Yeah, I think like key points are like or key case studies are like Rojava and Palestine, and obviously the Zapatistas in Chiapas. And I mean, there's just so like Bolivia,
Peru right now, Bolivia right now.
So many good examples, like Chile, the student movement, movements in like Vietnam, Burkina Faso in Africa. Sorry, I'm just naming stuff now.
No, that's great. I mean, it's great to be, you know, international, right? I mean, you have to know what's going on in other countries, and you're right. Like we don't really know that meaning, right? We don't. But I do have a question about. I know on your website you guys are like a coalition within a coalition, correct?
Yeah.
Like you guys are like. So do you guys like get together? Like how do you work together as?
So actually, like all of our efforts are done collectively within like the larger collective, which is North Orange County Mutual Aid Coalition, NOCMAC for short, which doesn't sound fun, but we're doing it. We all work together. I mean, we like it's the only way in which to work properly or like efficiently, right?
Yeah, to expand sustainably.
Yeah.
You like have to. And like we do the like work with our unhoused homies. We do work with, like, we have a prison writing project, and we do work with folks on the inside. We do like grocery deliveries and pop-up markets with like over 150 families. And like it only is possible with like that many connections. So.
It's also food reclamation and
what is food reclamation?
So like different places offering like currently Panera offers their breads and stuff to us every Monday that we pick up.
Nice.
But that was only through like somebody in another coalition who reached out and like asked them, and then like other places have like asked us how to give them like to give us stuff. So like having more collectives work together gives us a broader span of like things we can offer others.
Got it. So it strengthens like you know,
definitely.
It's the synergy of you guys.
We talk about and it was first discussed by a political prisoner named Russell Maroon Schultz, but it's this idea of like a mosaic of collectives that work together to like provide the care and support that our communities need. And it can be like within a community, within a state, within an entire country, but it's like this mosaic of collectives that are working together.
And that's pretty cool because, you know, and you touched on it with the word sustainability. And that's kind of something that I would think like, you know, why do certain movements kind of just like flame up and then burn out, you know? But if you're working within all these other coalitions and you guys are kind of, you know, in this mosaic, like you said, I would imagine that it's only getting strengthened at this point, right?
Yeah, I mean, the true strength comes from the ability to like show up for the community. Like without that, we'd really be nothing. Because like we do see other coalitions that work together within Orange County, and they all work together to do absolutely nothing for nothing, nothing feasible for our actual community, just like to bolster their own feelings. But like the true strength comes from actually providing and caring and humanizing the people who you want to help, rather than deciding that you're going to help them regardless of like how they feel.
I mean,
so do you guys think like all the coalitions, do they get along together, or is there like a little bit of conflict? Like, how do you deal with that? How do you deal if there's like conflict within all the different coalitions?
I mean, I think so within ours, like it's like rock solid. Like we're family amongst like the 50 of us, like, and so like for us, it's like nothing. And like the folks that we work with and like collaborate with to like meet, like we call it like material needs, like folks is like everyday material needs. Like we all have like really good connections, but it's I don't know if y'all like Sean King, and like it's the folks who just do things on social media and like raise money for things. And none of that money is ever shown in the community. And so those are the folks we don't affiliate with and will like publicly distance ourselves from. And it is like, I guess that's it.
So you and then kind of like what Sam talked about right now about like actually doing stuff that helps the community. Earlier, you guys had mentioned that you guys formed a council. You guys said with the Unhoused Neighbors.
Yeah, so like we're like in the process of like working with them one-on-one to like address like the needs they have like weekly, because like in this area, unfortunately, like encampments aren't allowed and are brutally stomped out consistently. So like actually having our unhoused folks trust us enough to like tell us where they will be when they aren't there, or like
or when a raid is happening, so we can pull up. Because like, so yeah, like one reality with that is like, so the homies in Oakland, they have like a sustained encampment, and so it's allowing us to, I don't know.
No, like they have so in Oakland they have a sustained encampment that like they call on a coalition of folks to come like protect them and like help them and assist them when pigs do raids. are like sweeps. Unfortunately, like that's not possible here in the OC yet, just because of how frequent it is and how violent it is. It's usually like ridiculous times in the morning, like 3 a.m. to 3 p.m. of just like relentless taunting and tormenting of our unhoused neighbors. And they can't get to a phone to call us. But like we'll pull up on our distro days and like we'll catch the tail end of it. But like
all their stuff was already thrown away.
Yeah.
And like on its way to the incinerator.
Which like is illegal, but they do it.
And so like, but when we do intervene, and if we do have the ability to intervene and show up with like 10, 15, 20 folks, like we have already seen in other instances that like the cops like are intimidated by that, or the pigs are intimidated by that, and their behavior changes.
Immediately.
And they all of a sudden want to go by the book, and they all of a sudden want to release people when we show up, and like when 40, 50 people start showing up. And like that's like, in our eyes, that's community care. Like it's making sure that our folks are not being harmed by like state terror, what we call it. Because it's like it's sanctioned, it's funded by the state, and it is like terror within Black and brown communities.
And how do you actually like collect like get money to like support your?
So currently we're completely donation based.
Okay.
And we have, through one of our other, like the other coalition that works with us, there's a sustainer option that people are signing up for. We haven't even officially launched, but like we already have hundreds of people that are signed up, even to give just like $1 a day or $1 a month. Sorry.
Yeah, I think we're like 1 or 2 folks away from completely sustaining our food distribution.
Yeah, our weekly food distributions, which is lucky.
Wow. And then I don't think we've touched on the distros, and I know I was asking about that the other day, Sam. Can you kind of like shed some light on the distros and what that is?
Yeah. So our distros, when we talk about distros specifically, we're talking about to our unhoused community. We go out 3 days a week and give meals, as well as like snack packs, harm redux, hygiene, and like any other needs they may have asked us previously. And we try to meet needs within the day as well. And we hand out fresh food, like hot food meals. We've like not recently, it's been like months actually.
3 or 4 months.
Yeah, crazy. It's been like 3 or 4 months that we've been able to like offer over about 220 fresh meals to
3 days a week.
3 days a week.
650 plus.
Yeah, 650 plus meals a week, along with like all of our snack packs and like hygiene and whatever else they may need, as well as like sometimes like flowers from like the vendors, so that we both support like our undocumented community, because that's who it usually is, and our houseless community, because like they love that, like just treating a human like a human being, giving them something pretty just for the fact of giving them something pretty. It's dope.
And also, like, speaking on community connections, like the community liaisons in Anaheim Public Schools knows about us and is connected with us. And so when families are in need, right now we have like 8 to 12 families that they connected with us, and we'll drop off like plates of food, clothes, resources, and stuff that they need. I can't disclose like certain information that just because I haven't been like told I can, but like they've been going through certain things, and like the community liaison reach out to us, and then we're able to like meet those needs. So like that has also been a part of our distributions recently because we made that connection.
That is great. Have you guys, like, I know you're talking about being in school and kind of getting fired up from school, but have you guys always, like in high school, were you like this then? Were you like activists before, or was it just started in college?
Truly coming from impoverished areas and like areas where like this is so rampant, it's hard not to be. It's hard not to care. It's hard not to see it. But like not having the monetary needs has always been an issue personally, or monetary like means personally. So like the caring and like the thought has always been there, but the actual drive to do so and like physically do so is really hard, especially under capitalism. Like we aren't given the time, and we're forcefully not given the time or energy to be able to do that. But always wanting to is like always
So
there. And
it's
I think,
always been there. Like your passion's always been there. It just
yeah, and I think like
really
DJ
got
has
started.
way more like times that he's done this, just because like he's been in different colleges where like that's an option in order and able to do that. Like I only went to like I've just worked, you know, since like I graduated high school, and then like went to community college where like those opportunities aren't really there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I also
Mhm.
I feel like I had the privilege of certain like folks in my life and like in my community, so I was able to look up to, like in high school and in college, to where I was like watching what they were doing and trying to like mimic that in my spaces. And so that I think that was like a privilege that I had. Like I was able to start doing it at like 13, 14 with certain like mentors. But
That's great.
like,
You're a good role
I think
model.
that's a privilege. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so, where do you guys like? What do you see for the future? Like, what is your actual end game? Like maybe just for the future in like the next 5 years. Do we lose?
You go.
Like, do we lose you?
Yeah, no. I mean, I think the realistic 5-year plan is to. So there's this thing called Cooperation Jackson, and it's to have multiple essentially community co-ops, whether that's an urban farm co-op or a homeschool cooperative, or a harm reduction cooperative, or a community like safety team cooperative, like whatever it is. I mean, like even folks have talked about like providing like. There's a lot of different things that you can like think of with a cooperative, having like our own food truck, having a cafe, that's all community run and like driving, is nothing for profit and is all, and not even in the nonprofit like complex, but like actually just pushing money through the community and for the community. And having like our own warehouses, storefronts to do our grocery distros, like industrial kitchens to like actually be pushing out like 3, 4, like 5,000 meals in grocery boxes every month. Like, cause we're only at, about, I would say, what is it? 153. Yeah. It's like 600 grocery boxes and 650 meals. And that's like not, it's great, but it's like, you know what I mean? Like how many people are in need.
Yeah, you're saying it's like a drop in the bucket, but I mean,
exactly.
You still.
Like the 5-year plan would be to just be meeting a greater need, and having it be completely sustained.
And then it all like one thing that we're really heavy on too, or at least like that we've been learning, that they've been trying to like get into us, is like the always kind of taking a step back and looking at like dominant culture versus like oppressive culture, and kind of like realizing like, you know, like at the end of the day, who is this favoring? Like who, you know, started this, or who yada yada, you know, just kind of like being aware of that, you know, because I think that's something that a lot of the times like people don't really acknowledge, and they kind of like, you know, assume that things are the way they are for a reason, rather than kind of looking at how things are set up and how it's failed.
No, that's so like accurate, because like personally, like in Santa Ana, like when we started distributing that in that area, we found all these laws that they had, like you can't have an umbrella in Civic Center because it's seen as an encampment. You can't have a raincoat because it's seen as an encampment. If you put even just a towel on a bag leaning in an area, it's seen as an encampment, and all of a sudden somebody is being able to be ticketed $1,000. Who is that serving? Who is that protecting?
Yeah.
And like those are the true questions like we should stop and ask ourselves so much more often. But we don't see it, so it doesn't count, right?
That's valid.
When you guys actually help the houseless, and do you guys like film this when the police are there? Like, do you guys film them like the way they're treated?
100%.
I mean, I was gonna say
we did that today.
Well, because I was wondering, I'm like, because the police wouldn't really back down if it was just you, right? Like if you have if you're actually documenting it. If
like
it's just
truly,
you.
wholeheartedly, they're bitches. Like they get so scared by just like, I'm a 5'2". Oh, sorry. I am a 5'2" femme presenting person, and like they get terrified when we start filming.
Yeah,
so.
there was 3 of us and 3 of them today, and like we put up videotaping, and like we know like our rights, and so like we just walk straight up to them and like around their cars, and like they're like, it's an investigation, please back up, and I just like walk past him and like call him a pig and like make sure he knows I don't think he's anything that matters in this world, and they like are so put off by that, like because they. Like there's actually data on this. Like they go home and like cry and like actually are like very emotionally hurt by like when the community doesn't like them. And so we just pull up and like make sure that they know that what we think they're doing is trash and that they're trash humans. And like it works. Like today, like our homie got let go. We drove him to where he needed to be, like gave him some money and like dipped. And like if that didn't happen, they were gonna disappear him and just drop him off somewhere in Santa Ana. Like that's what they used to do. And we had like just happened to be driving by, and like they had him handcuffed, and we pulled over, and we're like, all right, like
we will stay here too.
And like he trusted us. Like we were after like at first he didn't want to talk to us. He was like, I think they're gonna like I think they'll mess with me more if I talk to you. And I was like, okay, cool, yeah, stay quiet then. And then by the end of it, he gave us his first and last name and birthday so we can like track him just in case. But we ended up getting him out anyway.
Nice. Damn. And like you said, I was just kind of like, you guys were just driving by and you guys did that.
Yeah, we were going to Wingstop. I was so hungry.
We're so hungry.
I love Wingstop, man.
It's so good. We had to come back and warm it up, low-key. But
it was worth it.
Definitely worth it.
Damn, well, I mean, that's amazing, though. It sounds like you guys are doing this day in, day out. Like, how tired are you guys? Like, honest question.
So like it depends. Sometimes it's like hella tiring, and like I'm chronically ill and disabled, so it's extra tiring. But also like we have a collective that is so like graceful and like beautiful that like we do get breaks. We're like able to like pass off labor.
We're told to rest.
Yeah, we're told to rest. We're forced to rest.
Are you?
Like, yeah, I think oh no, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I don't know what you guys studied in college. I know you, DJ, you're a teacher, but Sam, I'm not sure what you studied. But I was just wondering if you think like you would want to somehow change the laws or go in and change it. You know what I mean?
So I don't believe in anything like that. I'm anti-government, like particularly
for everything. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I'm studying to be a surgical technologist in order to advocate for folks like me who have been really screwed over by the medical system.
Yeah, we just believe that like communities collectively know what they need and like know how to like run and operate themselves, and like have been always, like in spite of the state and state violence, and like we just like there's examples like Rojava has like their own autonomous city. There's like, again, I'm saying the same things, but like Zapatistas, like, so they exist outside of the state. And like, that's what we believe that like the only way we can avoid harm and violence that is caused by capitalism and by like America globally is to like just create our own communities and like take care of ourselves. And so like, we don't think the law or judges or cops or city officials will ever do things in our favor. Until we just like do it for ourselves.
I understand.
But that's like, again, like that is like, and I'll be completely honest, like that's a recent thing. Like that's within like the last year for me. Like I wouldn't have been able to tell you that 12 months ago.
No, definitely.
And so
not.
Like, again, with that growth and learning process, it's not
what changed? Like what made you
I think the more I watched, read, and learned and listened to people who like weren't like products and agents of like America and like the state. So like that, and that includes like people who have their doctorates, like professors and shit that like doctors, celebrities, like all these news channels, like all of that, like it never really works in our favor. Even like the ones who try to be like Wall Street Journal, like even like AOC, like being like the quote, or Bernie being the quote unquote like socialist Democrats, but they like backed like a violent coup of an indigenous run government in Bolivia. So like even though they claim to like care, they like also are supporting
Or
white
politicians, right?
supremacy. Yeah, and they're
Yeah.
supporting white supremacy. And so, yeah.
Like, and white
But do
supremacy
you-
is worldwide.
Yes. Do you guys see yourself like staying in America? Do you guys, or do you think like you eventually want to go somewhere that's like totally off grid?
I think like our goal is to just like eventually, because I think at the end of the day, America is like we say like yeah, sometimes you have to credit the devil, and like white supremacy and capitalism are like so far advanced that like in America we are like 10 to 15, 20 years away from actual being ready to like have enough power to fight back against that. Because like most of us still think that like voting is like our best way to be politically active. And so like we're so far away from ever like actual liberation. And so we think that at a point we have to just take care of ourselves and our community and our collective. And so like that's like our goal. It's just like survival within it, while trying to sustain certain efforts.
Yeah, it's so hard in this culture to do that because you need money, right? And you've got to work within the constructs of society, and it's like, so it's really really hard to do what you're doing. So
It's beautiful to see like how many, like there are so many older generations that like had started this and have done this for like X amount of years, and like they do still have like normal jobs and like have to work within the system obviously in order to like make money to be able to live. But like at the end of the day, this is like what they want and this is what they do, and like that's just unfortunately part of being like American.
Yeah, we did a case study last week with our political ed about the Black Liberation Army, and one of their members was just like it essentially was like a vow of poverty, but not in the sense of like you're trying to be like this self-serving savior. It's just that like you have what you need, you have your means to exist, and everything else is a part of the community. And like the Zapatistas have that phrase, I don't know it in Spanish, but it's like for us nothing, and for like the people everything, essentially. And like that's kind of what we hope to live by.
do like a socialist community. Right?
Yeah, so like socialists, and then like we believe that, and it's on our website too, like the steps to liberation is like a socialist state, I guess, if you will, that like forms into then like the communist state. But like if communism is reached, then like there is no, like there's this argument that there is no state anymore, because if communism is actually working how it should, then it's just like communities, like indigenous communities did communism before communism was invented. And so
but you're saying like if they I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, just like there was like before empires, like it was just indigenous communities, and so like that's what we hope the future to eventually be. And like that's what like folks argue, that capitalism will eventually destroy itself because it can't exist. Like eventually the earth will just destroy it.
Yeah, because if capitalism were to work like as the theory of capitalism, of communism, it would be that. It's just sometimes in practice, it doesn't go as planned.
It just got credited to like a white guy named Karl Marx, but it was like indigenous folks like were doing it and have been.
They just didn't use this.
They just didn't use that word, right?
But like,
yeah.
But again, like think about how strategically America was in like demonizing that word. Like we all were taught to praise that word. And, like that's strategic.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to episode 0. To find out more information or to get involved with our coalition, you can find us on Instagram at the People's Coalition _. You can find us online at ocpeoplescoalition.org. And for political education, you can visit tinyurl.com/comrades classroom. Or if you're white, you want to make sure you're not consuming this labor for free, you can sustain our mutual aid efforts in North Orange County at ocprotest.org/donate.
Conociéndote, la vida es una rifa, sigo escogiéndote, me conocí más, conociéndote, la vida es una rifa. voy, que sin ti